Relocating to Florida's Space Coast can feel exciting and also a little bit overwhelming, especially if you're moving from out of state. I hear this all the time. Tina, I don't even know where to start. And honestly, I get it because I've relocated to the Space Coast not once, but twice. Hi, I'm Tina Veltri, and I help people buy, build, sell, and relocate along Florida's Space Coast. My family relocated to Satellite Beach in the late 70s from Rochester, New York. And then I went away to college and I moved to Atlanta and Chicago in the Midwest. And then I relocated back here to raise my 3 boys. Because I'll tell you what, there's just something about the Space Coast. Now today I'm going to be walking you through everything you actually need to know before deciding where to live on the Space Coast. The real things I go over with my relocation buyers so that you can narrow everything down without stress. Now, before we dive into the neighborhoods and home types, it's really important to understand the makeup of the Space Coast and how it's laid out, because once you understand that, everything else makes sense. We're located on the east coast of Florida, right on the Atlantic Ocean. And then we also have the Indian River Lagoon and the Banana River. Beachside is an actual barrier island with the ocean on one side and the river on the other. And it feels very different from living along the river or on the mainland. There isn't just one best place to live here. It really depends on what fits your life. Beachside, we have Cocoa Beach, which is more fun and lively. In some areas, kind of touristy. Satellite Beach, residential and quiet. Melbourne Beach, peaceful, tucked away. Then we have Merritt Island. The southern part of Merritt Island has the Indian River Lagoon and the Banana River on either side. Melbourne is a mix of everything, and it's one of our largest cities here, and it includes a lot of different areas. Downtown Melbourne and the Yogali Art Districts are walkable areas with a lot of shopping and dining. Palm Bay, huge for new construction right now and more budget-friendly options. And then there's West Melbourne with some older communities and some newer communities. We have Titusville, which is closest to Kennedy Space Center. Then, of course, we have Viera, a newer master plan community with top-rated shopping, restaurants, the baseball stadium, parks, always in demand and one of the fastest growing areas, with newer homes and still more new construction. And then we have places like Cocoa Village, which has a charming waterfront, restaurants and shops. And it's got a little small town feel that makes people absolutely fall in love with it. Now, before we can even talk about specific neighborhoods or even areas, I always start with you. Your lifestyle, your budget, your timeline, and the kind of home you actually want to live in. And here's why. Where you should live in Brevard County isn't just about looking at beautiful homes on Zillow. So that's what makes our first initial consultation so important. I'm going to ask you things like, do you want to be near the beach or would you prefer mainland? Would you like new construction? Do you have a longer time frame or do you prefer an existing home? Are schools important to you? Do you want quiet or do you want walkability? Do you want to be able to ride your golf cart around? What is your maximum budget? And then, of course, are you relocating here for a job? Are you retiring or are you just moving for a better lifestyle? And the answer matters way more than you think, because here's the truth. Rather than jumping around on Zillow and trying to guess where you belong and just looking at houses, you may find a home that you absolutely love, but it turns out it's not in the area that actually fits your budget, your lifestyle, or your long-term plans. And that's one of the biggest mistakes relocation buyers make. They fall in love with a house and then realize commute is too long. It isn't in the right school zone. Insurance is a little higher than I wanted to pay, or this neighborhood really just does not fit us. So I like a multi-step approach for my relocation buyers. Step 1, a consultation. We'll walk through your wants and your needs, your questions and your concerns, and your budget. Then I'll get a little more information on your areas that you would be interested in. I explain which parts of Brevard County might match your lifestyle. You're going to tell me some things that you need. We'll discuss beachside, riverside, mainland, and all of the different cities and pockets in these areas and why it might fit your lifestyle. Step 3 would be your home criteria. We'll talk about how many bedrooms you need, how many bathrooms, what size home would you like? Does it matter to you if you want new construction or would you prefer a resale home? Do you want to live in a 55 plus retirement community or you want to be living where there are a lot of kids in a great school district? And then of course, what is important to you in your home? What are your must-haves? What features must be in a home? Do you need a pool or is a community pool okay? Or maybe you don't want a pool at all. Step 4 is a real home search. I set you up directly on a home search through the MLS, which is in real time, not Zillow, where it could be lagging. Let's see. It wasn't too long ago that I was looking for a home for a buyer, and they called me and wanted to schedule a tour. The home showed active on Zillow. However, it was already under contract. On my home search, you're going to get the homes that actually meet your criteria in the areas that you're interested in at the price point that you can afford. And you can also create your own home search, as well as saving properties that I get to see. And that helps me so much to really understand what homes my customers truly like. Step 5 is what I call an exploratory trip. All right. I highly recommend coming down, driving the areas, looking at the homes both during the day and at night, and that you liked, and really get more of a feel for how it would be to live there. Because here on the Space Coast, no two neighborhoods are alike, and homes even 5 minutes away can feel completely different. And remember, when you work with me, that is part of my job. It's a huge part of my job, is really narrowing you down in the areas to find exactly the home in the perfect place that fits your needs, your family's needs. And if you're starting to plan a move or even thinking about it next year, remember, it's never too early to start your research. And I put together my free Space Coast relocation guide. I am going to put it in a link in the description below. And if you want to talk through your timeline, your criteria, or you're just in need of talking with someone to help you figure out where to start, please reach out anytime. I'm always happy to walk you through it. Once we've narrowed down the areas that feel right for you, the next thing I help people understand is the type of homes we have here and what all of that means for insurance and inspections. And most of the things people worry about, the age of the roof or the flood zone, we can figure all of that out before we ever step foot in a home. Now, just a note about flood zones, because people think every place in Florida is in a flood zone, but that's absolutely not the case. Some homes on the river or even beachside, well, a lot of them actually, are not in flood zones at all. While on occasion, you're going to find a home mainland that actually is. Now, you're going to see two types of construction here. Mostly, you're going to see concrete block, which is perfect for Florida and our climate. But we're also going to see wood frame homes. Those can usually be older homes or maybe the second story of a home. And wood frame is not necessarily a bad thing. We just have to look at the age and how well it's been cared for and maintained. Older homes may have cast iron plumbing. Some roofs are newer, some are older. Some homes have impact windows, some don't. But here's the key. We can know the age of the roof, the type of plumbing, a lot of things about the home before we ever step inside. So you're not wasting time. You're not falling in love with the wrong house. You're not blindsided halfway through your contract. Which is why I always tell buyers, always trust the process. We sort through so much before I ever open the front door. Now, insurance is one thing that everyone worries about and asks about when they're moving to Florida. And here's the honest answer. Most homes in Brevard County are completely insurable and at reasonable rates. The insurance companies use two reports, the 4-point inspection and a wind mitigation, to decide if a home is insurable and what the rate will be. Now, of course, living beachside is always going to come with higher homeowners insurance. Now, flood zones. Do not overthink this one. As I said before, flood zones confuse a lot of people who are moving to Florida because it's not always logical or what you would expect. But the bottom line is most homes are not in a flood zone. Now, let's talk about the inspection. Once you find a home you love and we go under contract, we're going to have an inspection period. The inspector is going to do a 4-point inspection and check the roof and the plumbing and the electrical and the AC. They're also going to do a wind mitigation report. And then they're going to give us a detailed inspection report so that we can take a look at it together, discuss what we need to have fixed, negotiate, or possibly get seller concessions. Because the most important thing is we need to make sure the home that you are purchasing is in fact insurable. Because buyers and sellers both know that if a buyer is getting a loan, the home must be insurable, and anything that needs repair to make sure it is insurable must be done. And that gives you clarity and total freedom to walk away during inspection period if we can't get what we need. Bottom line, so many buyers think the Florida home buying process is going to be so complicated or scary. But once you understand how much we can check up front and how much we can find out during inspection period and how that inspection period protects you, it becomes really straightforward. And my job is to simplify things and to help you make smart decisions without feeling overwhelmed. Now let's talk about new construction versus resale. You're going to notice pretty quickly that there's a lot of new construction in certain areas within Brevard County. Palm Bay, Viera, Titusville. It's happening all over. But here's something most people do not know. You do not save money by skipping a realtor in the new construction process. In fact, builders usually pay me to represent you. And honestly, they love working with us. When I represent you in a new build, I'm your eyes and ears. I watch the whole building process. I can send you videos, attend walkthroughs, catch issues early, and help with inspections, especially when you're living out of state. And because I film so many new construction tours and interview builder reps directly, I can help you compare the differences between builders, between KB Homes or DR Horton or Adams or the other builders. And we can also look at incentives and floor plans. Now let's talk resale, because this surprises a lot of people. A lot of resale homes here have been beautifully updated with new roofs and modern kitchens, luxury vinyl flooring, and even impact windows. In fact, many resale homes are turnkey. They're in prime locations, close to the beach, along the river, or in established neighborhoods with the mature trees. So what is better, new construction or resale? Really, it depends on your time frame and what you want. My job is to help you compare both and help you make a confident decision depending on your needs. So there's many things that surprise people when they move here. So let's talk about them. First, let's talk about the weather. In the summer, it pretty much rains every single day. We may have a strong storm and then it clears up as if it never rained at all. And in the summer, yes, it can get hot. We actually call it the opposite of the winters up north. So the brutal winters up north where you're inside, well, unless you're at the beach or boating or by your pool, the humidity in Florida in the summer is real. Now, landscaping grows fast here. If you've never lived in a subtropical climate, that will be a big adjustment for you. But once you get in the routine, pretty much everybody has a lawn person. It becomes second nature. Bugs. Oh, yep. We have them for sure. Every part of Florida has them. But you know, people up north, you have big mosquitoes. So we get used to everything. Now, we don't have basements for the most part on the Space Coast. On occasion, you may find a half basement, but that's very rare. And that's because our water table is just too high. So garages, sheds, and extra storage really does matter more here than people would expect. Rocket launches on the Space Coast are completely normal. In fact, they happen all the time, and they're just part of our wonderful life here on the Space Coast. Most people get the alerts, and they run outside still to this day to watch the rocket go off. And remember, we are a coastal community, so our sea life is real. Yes, we have alligators, and if there is a body of water, one should always be on guard. But if you look at the news, most people don't have any issues with anything happening with our wildlife. And then we have the other great things like the dolphins and the manatee. And you think, wow, I live here. And that feeling never goes away. If you're thinking about relocating and want a simple breakdown of the areas or pros and cons, best places to live, I put together my free Space Coast relocation guide, and I have the link in the description below. And if you want to walk through your timeline, your criteria, or you just need help figuring out where to start, please reach out anytime. I'm always here to help with whatever I can. Because where you end up living isn't just about the house. It's about what you want and how you want your days to feel. And I do virtual tours when you can't be here. I drive neighborhoods and send videos so you get a real sense of what it's like here. I walk construction sites, check on progress, and help you understand the things you can't just see in photos. And when it's time for inspections and you can't be here in person, I'm there. I can FaceTime you. I always go to the inspections. And again, we get the detailed inspection reports that I can help you go through and navigate those things for repairs or for seller concessions. You don't have to figure out the Space Coast alone. You don't have to figure out your move alone. You don't have to guess. That's literally why I'm here, to guide you through the entire process and to make this feel clear, calm, and doable. Remember, that first conversation is where we begin everything. And remember, I'm Tina Veltri, and I help people buy, build, sell, and relocate with confidence along Florida's Space Coast, and I would love to help you. I post a new video every week, so make sure to subscribe. Thanks for being here. I'll see you on the next video.